Hi, and welcome to our very first live streaming event. Rannick, my son, used to handle all the technical stuff remotely from Germany. I'm grateful that he's here with me now. He's sitting right at my computer terminal and we can work together instead of remotely. So this is nice to have him. This is just going to be a little demonstration painting, and it's not like a workshop, so it'd be like I'm doing it for some workshop group somewhere. All right, I've already laid down the initial wash, and I like to do that it unifies the painting. It gives a color balance to the whole thing, and it gives me a sense of what kinds of colors I'm going to be using. I've wanted a yellow sky moving into a blue, and then the yellow coming down through here. So we'll see what happens. My drawing is a guide more than a have to follow those kinds of shapes. Keep all. If the drawing is too tight, then your painting ends up too tight. So I want it to be a living thing. So sometimes I'll start with just moving with the lighter values and moving towards the darker. This time I'm going to start. I want to know just how dark and how much contrast I'm going to have right here in the center of interest. So this time I'm going to start right with a good rich dark. And let's see. Maybe a little bit more blue. Okay.
I just gave them your values today too down there in small, so.
So this is a background hill that is going to be highlighting the barn. And that's a little bit of a telephone line, power line that's coming in. And I'll just leave that. I'd rather that, I could take that out with tape later on, but I think it's a nice fresh thing to have it. Yeah, that tells me how dark that is going to be right next to the barn. Now, and a post right there. So this will actually be like more finished right here, but I like to use the biggest brush possible for the shapes that I'm going to be dealing with. And a lot of water. And I like to change my color every time I go back. And if I lose a little edge right there, it won't hurt at all. In fact, I found that we are so adept at filling in blanks and making sense out of incomplete patterns that it's a mistake to define everything. There, I wanted plenty of sienna right in that main area right there. I think I'll even drop more color in it. All right. All right, that tells me that the amount of contrast I'm going to have right in that area. So that's not a question. All right, now I can go to mountains back in the background. How dark do I want them? Not that dark. But and the painting is a living thing. So I don't want to be tied down. I want to be able to take advantage of anything that happens along the way. And sometimes the brush does some things that I hadn't planned. I think, okay, where was it? Okay, I know. I try to do a shape with as few strokes as possible so that I don't lose the integrity of the stroke. Let's see, this I think I have to keep in mind, okay, the mountain, and I've got some trees that are going to go in through here, so I have to leave some space for those. And a damp brush will lift out the puddles that develop here, because I've got my board at an angle so that I can use gravity. There, so having the yellow over here kind of warmed up those shadows underneath. And I'll soften a couple of edges along the way. And I squint and look at it, see what shapes have been produced, what ones I can take advantage of. All right. And now that dark hillside. Except I think I want to use a round brush, pointed brush to get that. So I can have a kind of tree limb or tree formation at the top. And here since that mountain is wet, I'll have some soft edge.
While he's painting, this is Rannick, this is Carl's son. If any of you have any questions, just put them in the chat and I'll ask Carl while he's painting here. Also, if you want to see the side camera view or if you want to see his palette or anything, if anybody needs to see those, let me know and I can give you a view of those as we're going through the painting.
And let's see, what would I do? Okay. It's methodical, but I want it to have the appearance of spontaneity.
I'm gonna fix that palette cam real quick. Not quite straight. What colors are you using, Dad?
Okay, I'm using some, I used ultramarine blue and phthalo blue and sap green up in the dark greens and some sienna. Now I'm just combining some new gamboge.
Another person's asking if you stretch your paper.
Yes, I did. I like it to stay good and flat while I'm working. So this is going to be a combination of like early autumn, last of summer. Use a thirsty brush and lift out some of that color.
Is this 140 pound?
140 pound, yeah, that's my favorite texture.
This is a quarter sheet, right?
Right. See, I want some of this to be a little closer in the foreground. Bring the dark back in here. It's a mistake to try to explain everything to the viewer. Because everybody likes to get involved in the painting and make it and identify things for themselves so that they don't feel like they're being told everything. Okay, well, looks like I touched that. I want to pull some of that out. There. Okay. Now, here I'm going to use a little bit more. Yeah. Now I need some more pure color. And want some green in it. There. I'll use the damp brush to lift some of that puddle out so it doesn't end up as a bleed back. And what did I have in? like I said, the drawing is a guide more than a, fill in between the lines. I don't want to have to do that. And I want to have the painting kind of speak to me as I move along. Thinking here of shadowed side of some of this foliage.
Also, don't forget, today is the last day for the 20% off sale on the website. So I'll put a link in the chat here, but you can go to the website now, and if you're an email subscriber, you can get 20% off anything on the site. And if you're not a subscriber, you can sign up for the website emails. We don't really send them out very often. I send out one every couple of months or so. And yeah, you can sign up and get the code for 20% off today.
And we could put this painting on.
Yeah, we can put this painting in there as well.
All right, now let's add a little of that color over here. Let's break up some of that, and then there we go. If I get rid of the puddle, it won't bleed as much. And let's see, I don't want a lot of attention out here, so I'm not going to have a lot of bright color. And not that well defined for the tree. Now, look at my drawing and think, okay, I think I'm going to clean that up so I have some fresh places to mix color.
Are these Daniel Smith paints?
These are all, the only one I have that is not Daniel Smith is Horizon Blue up in the corner up there. And I use it fairly sparingly. Notice instead of defining 1 tree, 2 tree, 3 to 4, I'm painting the patterns. And I don't even care what that white is there. And a little of that. There we go. Patterns of foliage leading to the building. What I had in mind was all this being kind of rough brush and stuff through here. And I paint with my eyes about half closed most of the time so that I can see the whole painting instead of pinpoint focus on one spot. So all the little pieces of light left through there. That's what I've noticed about nature. There's always a kind of a pattern of pieces of light. That's what I left in here, was dancing lights coming through here and up to there. So, and I want to bring some of that ultramarine blue from up there down here into the foreground. I mean, some of it was already there. I paint with the side of my brush about as much as I paint with the tip. We're usually in such a hurry to get to the detail that we miss the patterns.
Somebody asked, how big is that value study?
That value study is about, well, here it is. It's about, what, 4 by 6 inches? I can tell you exactly here in a second.
Nope. Let me go back to progress.
It's 7 inches by 5.
That's bigger than your usual values.
Yeah, I wanted to draw. Well, actually, I was doing it as a drawing, and then I thought that wouldn't be bad for a painting.
And is that the number 8 round?
And this is number 12.
Oh, it's number 12.
Mm-hmm. So notice I haven't used any little brushes yet. I'm squinting, looking at what happens to these little pieces of light. I don't want to lose them all, because lights tend to disappear. I'm going to lift out a few places, and then I'm going to dry it with a hairdryer and come back in with the little details. If you paint, let me dry it first. Notice when I'm drying it, I hold it about 2 feet from the surface so it doesn't blow the paint out of the little valleys, which flattens the wash. Drying it will have 2 effects. One is I won't be dragging my hand through wet paint, and 2, the paper will be flat so that I can do line work. It's dry enough now that I can touch it without smearing the paint. And also without having to blow the paint out of the valleys so it doesn't alter it.
Somebody asked if you they said they use these brushes, but they're no longer available. Have you switched to the King Art 9020?
I have. I've got some here, but I keep using these until
There you go.
they're gone, and then I've purchased several of these King Art.
Hold it up farther. There you go.
I've purchased several of these, but
Dad, look over here. That's what they're seeing. So there you go.
Okay.
That's it.
I purchased a number of these from King Art, but I'm kind of saving them until these are all worn out. So right now I'm just going to use a Lucrenel brush for the final detail work.
So what size is that one?
That's number 4.
Okay, it's number 4 round.
Uh-huh. And I'll leave that light there for the pole. I'll come down here and connect it up here darker as it goes through the light area. Then I can define it a little bit more right here with some darker foliage under the trees. There, it's all pattern. If we think, oh, I've got to define the grass blades, then we've moved from seeing pattern to identifying items. And that's a bad move. Okay, now I'm going to, I think, lift out just a little of this in here so that there's a soft edge. If I wet it, yeah. All right, so it's not a really defined edge there. Now I'm going to come in with a little dark. Find where that real clear tip is. And maybe I don't want it quite that dark. Okay. I have never seen anybody put too many limbs in a tree, but I have noticed that most people include a paucity of limbs so that it always looks a little fake. Or they're not basing the limb structure on observation, but on symbol. Okay. And I'll come into here. Maybe suggest some of the lighter tree trunks back in there. If it's too well defined, I'll just get rid of some of it. And that's enough there. If I go any further with it, I'll probably lose it. Bring too much attention over there. I want most of the detail right in here. That'd be more with the keeping with the length of these. Let's change color. I know that's not exactly what's in the drawing, but there was some light left there, so I turned it into a fence post. And variations within the stroke so that it doesn't end up being too mechanical. And let's see. And here I wanted a really rich, dark doorway. Or I know the farmer would probably have put a doorway more in the middle, but I want it to define the edge of this little shed here, so I moved it, which is my prerogative. And let's see, let's get a little. And maybe a little tin. Color on the roof here. Not too dark. There. In fact, I need this to come over a little further. Okay, then how much do we put here in the foreground? I love these little round brushes because you can get a thick line like that or a really fine tip. How much before it starts to compete?
Sarah Miller commented that you're one of her favorite artists.
I feel so blessed to be able to do this for my whole life. My life is so much richer because I've been able to do this. Of course, it means I've spent a lot of time doing it. I have spent more time preparing for this painting than I have actually painting it. Because I have to think my way through it from beginning to end.
Donna Weiber also said you're one of her favorite artists.
Well, thank you. Let's have a broken fence here. That's some of the linear work. Let's see. Let's bring a little of that color down here. So the grasses and stuff are starting to turn also. And a little of that blue and some pieces of white.
Chris Sommerfeld said your painting with your artist brain is his favorite watercolor book, and he recommends it to his students.
Oh, well, thank you. I started writing that book first, thinking like a professor, and I looked at books by other professors, and after halfway through the first chapter, I thought, this is so boring. I just can't do it this way. And I thought, I want to make it more appealing, more readable, more fun to read. I don't want to bore myself, so I don't really want to bore my readers either. So I changed my whole direction, and there, little shots of blue through there. And I liked it a lot better. I will suggest some of the bushes going through here. Some of the pattern. Oop, maybe a little too dark there. That's why they invented paper towels. Very lightly. And a little over this way. I take advantage of things like I see a light there and a little light there, and if I put a little bit of a line in between them, and I like I say, I don't want to explain everything. Yeah, I didn't like that shape of light. Okay, then I'd stop and look at it and make some decisions about it. And I might change a few things. Yeah, it's enough. Richard Schmidt said it takes 2 people to do a painting. One to apply the paint and the other to tell them or smack them smartly, he said, on the head when they're finished. So I don't usually have somebody here to tell me and smack me on the head like that. So I have to rely on myself to say, Carl, what? Time to quit. Really? Yeah. So I'm going to stop right there and I'll look at it for maybe tomorrow. I'll put a little, or later today, put a little bit more in, but I doubt it. I kind of like it right there, and my emphasis is going right to where I want it. And it's loose and fresh looking, so if I work too much on it, it'll look overdone, and I don't know. I hate to see watercolor work like oil paint. And I love oil paintings that are fresh and paint strokes applied without messing them up. So to me, the process is as important as the final result. Okay, that will do it. Thanks.
So we're going to put this painting up on the website. If any of you are interested in buying it at the 20% off, then you can send a message to the chat right now, and we can reserve it for you and get you an invoice, and or you can take a look at it on the website later, and we'll put it up there. So thanks everybody for being part of the first live stream. Hope it was helpful, and we had quite a few viewers. This is really great. It was fun.
That was fun to do. Fun to share. This gives a good format for sharing the whole process of things with people. So thank you for coming and watching it.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye-bye.